Hello and welcome back to the podcast where we review the episodes of The Bachelor presents Listening to Your Heart. I'm Chase Smith.
I'm Nathan Smith.
And this week we have a special guest.
Tim Quintanilla.
Tim Quintanilla. It's very interesting. Tim is a consultant. He's actually been on The Bachelor about 4 times. He's gotten kicked off because they only take female contestants. But Tim, how was your experience on The Bachelor?
You know, it was a great experience. I met friends that, I've known for years now. I've been to a bunch of weddings. It's just really interesting to see a new group of people involved in the process.
That's really great. Today we'll be talking about episode 2. Tim actually hasn't seen episode 1, season 1 of Listening to Your Heart, but
I lived it.
Yeah. We believe Tim has had enough experience where he knows the general process and what's involved. This episode started out with a date. I believe it was Bree and what's his name?
Jamie and Trevor.
No. Was it?
Yeah, that's the first date.
Okay, then that was a very forgettable date. Tim, what was that date? What did that date entail of?
Entailed of them being at a random beach.
That's
and just
true.
singing very badly. And then raising $83, I believe. And we don't know if it was $83 because they did so well or because they were singing so badly that they wanted them to leave.
We don't even know if it's $83 Canadian. We don't.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, it was them singing on the beach, them singing on a towel, and them sitting in a hot tub. And I think that was the date.
Yeah, pretty much the takeaway was Trevor was talking about his previous relationship, which if you've seen any Bachelor show, that means they're going to tie in a new character, and there's going to be drama that goes into what he just said. So we'll get into that later on, but that's the takeaway, that he had an old relationship and that he kind of sort of lied to Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, again, brought up that she has been in a lot of relationships and has been cheated on in every single one of them, and Trevor was very certain to reassure her that he does not cheat on her and will not cheat on her.
Trevor did not cheat on her in any way, but she tried to make it seem that way. She's just honestly probably a little bit psychotic, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and the date was so boring that I think they brought in a new character. I don't remember that character's name. She's a friend of Trevor's ex. What's her name, Tim?
Natasha.
Her name's Natasha. Yeah, what do you think about Natasha, Tim? She is 33 years old. That means she's the second oldest person in this cast, which I think is pretty crazy. What did you think of Natasha, Tim?
It seems like she was just kind of thrown in there to create drama, and then nothing absolutely happened with her. And so they decided to bring 2 other girls in hopes that it would become more interesting. Because honestly, all this has been is Jamie and Julia creating drama the entire time. Jamie's literally complaining about how she's been cheated, and Julia is like, oh, I love the guy who looks exactly like Jesus, but then I don't really like him that much, so it's like he's like my side piece, old reliable, if you would. So it was interesting how she kind of disregards what's that guy's name, because I don't want to just call him Jesus.
Sheridan.
I'm just gonna call him Jesus.
Okay.
Sheridan. But it was interesting to see, because I honestly thought when they sang together it was really well, and you could obviously see they had chemistry. But for her to quickly just like go for another guy that quickly after a date like that was, I don't know, really, I think kind of puts kind of her character in doubt, whether she's just is just being nice to the guy so she can stay on the show longer, or if she just, made a mistake. Because obviously you guys are saying it's really early in the show still, and we don't know how long they've been in the house. I know you said 3 days, could be a week, but even then they're all moving extremely quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think someone brought up that they were falling in love. I think that was Mel after she kissed Brandon. But yeah, after Trevor and Jamie's super boring date, they went back to the house, and Natasha was like, hey, Trevor, I need to speak with you right now. And he's like, hey, can I sit down first? And she's like, no, right now. And then she talks, and she's like, I hope you told that poor girl Jamie that you're a cheater because I heard it from my friend. And Trevor's like, I have not told her that, and that's not the case. And
Yeah, it's pretty much like if you've seen any of the memes of the little kid, it's kind of like she walks in there and Trevor's like, "Who are you?" So
yeah.
it's really random.
The next part of the show was a date between Chris and Bree. They went to a Guitar Center, and we talked about this last week, but I'm convinced that none of the girls on this show, being a show about musicians, none of the girls know instruments. Bree did not even look like she knew how to hold a guitar or piano. What did you guys think of that date?
It's pretty awkward. I mean, they went in a closed Guitar Center, which is a cool place. I noticed she picked up a guitar, and whenever she picked it up, I don't know if she's either left-handed or if she obviously like doesn't know how to hold the guitar, but either she's left-handed or she picked it up wrong, which is weird either way.
Nathan plays guitar, everyone.
What I thought was really interesting, and I know it's basically The Bachelor but music, but I thought it was really incredible how talented Chris was. He could sing, play the guitar really well, play the piano really well. The guy is pretty incredible as a musician.
Yeah.
I would easily the best one.
Oh, when they were singing together, it really sounded like Bree was just adding in like ooh and baby and stuff like that, and not really like singing the words. Chris was just so natural with what he was singing.
Yeah, and Chase is a professional vocal coach too, so.
Nathan, I don't want you giving all my secrets away, but it's true. Next on the episode after the Bria date, what happened?
Pretty
Rudy-
much in all the free time, Rudy just complains about everything.
Yeah,
So, like,
Rudy was like, "Oh no one's gonna pick me this
she
week," so
doesn't really
she's
have a
just
claim. Yeah, it's
How many guys did she make out with? Was it just 2 or was it 3?
well. She made out with you, right, Tim?
that's off camera.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, but after the date, we got a little drama between Jamie and Trevor cleared up, where Trevor was like, "Yo, I emotionally cheated on my last girlfriend," and Jamie's like, "I'm young and stupid, so I'll allow it." So I think they stuck it out for the episode. And then next, we had a date between Sheridan and Julia. This was honestly probably the most well thought out date, where they went on a radio show as opposed to like messing around in a Guitar Center, going to the beach. What do you guys think of that
Yeah,
date?
they definitely lied about it. I don't know what it was. They like went in this sketchy radio place, which I mean it was a nice date. But then Sheridan was like, "Yeah, we get the opportunity to play in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people listening in, and like anybody who's ever heard of the radio knows that that's not the case anymore with the technology we have today. The radio's obsolete." And
Well, Tim, I don't believe you've heard of the radio. What was your takeaway from that?
So I know my grandfather talked about it, you know, when I was really young. So I'm sure that the folks at the nursing home probably really enjoyed it. I know during, you know, the COVID time, you know, you probably listening to the radio more. I'm hearing that radio is actually making a comeback these days. So that was very interesting to see that tie-in, especially with current events.
Yeah, it was a really nice throwback. After that, and they sang on that date. Honestly, I thought they harmonized the best, and that was the best. Like, both the guy and the girl were really good singers for the radio. Nathan said that he felt like it was auto-tuned because it was so good. Can you elaborate, Nathan?
well, like I said before, whenever it seemed like Julia went into a falsetto, it seemed like she was getting really breathy, but it was still sustained. So I think that it was like, if you know what auto-tune is, like whenever they like start to like drift off, there's like a metallic-y sound, but like you can tell when something's being auto-tuned. I think that was the case. And Sheridan, they sounded really good, and I think they're really good singers, but I don't think they were that good in that circumstance. I think there's a lot of nerves that was going on, and I think it was auto-tuned.
One thing I'd like to get both of your input was, I personally felt like Sheridan and Julia had a lot of chemistry when they sang.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that was just because they harmonized so well and they wanted to make it look like that, or if you actually saw genuine chemistry in that. Because I definitely feel like the closest and the most intimate they were, emotionally and in a manner of speaking, was when they were singing together. I didn't know if you guys caught on to that or if you guys disagreed.
Yeah, when they were singing, I definitely was like, all right, they're a couple for the rest of the season. And I was expecting that to be the case once they got back to the house, but it honestly didn't seem like that. What about you, Nathan?
I feel like during the show, I guess it was right after the date, it showed Julia with another guy, which was Brandon, and she seemed really confident in them. So I think it was honestly, I feel bad for Sheridan the most because he was really into Julia, and then she really didn't give him the time of day. But we'll get into what happens later on. Just bad situation for Sheridan, and Julia got lucky this week.
Yeah.
You made an interesting point, Chase, about Sheridan and Julia being like a possible couple that will stay on. I'm really reminded of Nicole and Clay from Bachelor in Paradise this latest season.
Yes.
Because they were always with each other. And Clay, for the most part, I don't think ever went on another date with another girl from my memory.
Mm-hmm.
But Nicole did. Do you see that being like the same situation where they'll probably stay with each other, but when push comes to shove, they won't?
Yeah, I
actually get an
definitely,
engagement?
like you said, Nicole was more than willing to go on any date that any guy asked her about on Bachelor in Paradise. And I can see that definitely happening for Julia, especially if Brandon gets a date card or new guy gets a date card. So after that date, we went back to the house and we immediately saw Rudy talking to the dude who was dressed like hipster Harry Potter this episode, Ryan. Ryan is the dude. What does Ryan look like to you, Tim?
Definitely seems like he'd be a One Direction kind of guy.
Yeah, maybe like the fifth or sixth direction. I don't know how many members are in that.
I don't know. I think they went in a new direction, but anyway.
All right, Nathan's getting kicked off the podcast right now. If you could excuse us for a minute while we escort him out. All right, we're back. We talked to Nathan. He agreed to not bring that up again, and we'll try to move on past this. So anyways, Ryan and Rudy are sitting on the couch, and Rudy's again trying to stay here another week. So she's like, "Hey, Ryan, I think you're cute," and he's just like, "That's cool. I think you're cute too." It was incredibly. That was the most chemistry I've seen from Rudy. It was, and the most honesty. I think you could really tell she was just trying to stay. What'd you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think Ryan felt bad that it's obvious that Rudy's not getting any attention, and I think he was really uncomfortable that she was even trying to approach him. I mean, I think it's just different leagues, but I mean, he was nice enough to her. She went her own way and then made out with another dude to secure a spot this week.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt like the saddest kind of character on this episode was definitely Mel. I definitely felt like
We'll get into that when we get to that part of the episode.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly it's really funny because week to week, whenever it's the guys or the girls' turn with the roses, you can see the desperation like in people's eyes. It's ridiculous. But because this was a guys' week, we were introduced to two new characters, Mariana and pink-haired girl Ruby.
And Natasha.
Well, we already talked about Natasha, but I don't know why they introduced these two new girls like in the middle of the week. It was kind of weird. But me and Nathan definitely fancied Mariana and Tim.
Team Ruby, bro.
Team Ruby. That's very interesting.
I definitely feel like both of them did not get nearly enough screen time, and I don't know if they just brought him in super late. Obviously, we don't know the days or the times, but neither of them really got a lot of time. I would have loved to have seen more from Mariana. She was very happy-go-lucky, and I don't remember who it was, but one of the girls definitely said she felt threatened by the new girls because they were both very attractive. And you could just see that. They were both younger, which I also thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the girls are older. So just to have some, a little bit of variety and diversity, younger girls coming in with a much older crowd, usually 4 or 5 years at the very least, was interesting to see.
Yeah, it was really funny. They were both from Texas, which I think is funny. They probably just showed up in a van and was like, "Hey, who wants to be on this Bachelor show?" And they got two girls. The reason I personally was a fan of Mariana was because most of these people's professions are like musician or waitress or something. Mariana said that she was a real estate agent, and she was also 23 years old, which I was very impressed by that. It looked like she was, if she didn't have this show, she'd be fine, but it felt like a lot of girls this week and in the show in general are like, need this show to survive. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think I don't know did it say real estate agent? I thought it was like some fake title that like associated with real estate, kind of like what's his name? Brandon, like he said.
Oh,
he was,
it's leasing agent.
yeah,
Sorry.
leasing agent. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, but I think it was similar to Brandon, how he like kind of glanced over the fact that like he said he was a sniper, but we all know that like he was pretty much the guy that held the binoculars. So
Yeah.
and I think the cast that this show has, I think it's like really weak. So they brought in 3 people this week, and of the 3 people, 2 of them stayed. So that just
Yeah.
shows that like of the people they already had, the guys are anxious to like get to know somebody else besides the people already there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see the new people come in and like start to weed out the old people. So I think by the end of it, we might have completely different people if it goes that way again.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And speaking of Brandon, the next part of the episode, Mel was, like I said earlier, girls are just trying to get desperate and finding people to pair up with. Mel went straight to Brandon and was like, hey, what's your love language? And Brandon's like, probably physical touch. And Mel was like, yeah, that's not mine at all, but I'd be willing to do that for you if you give me a rose. And Brandon's like, maybe. And so, yeah.
Brandon's very interesting. It is clear that he is probably the most desirable guy, at least in this episode. But it's very interesting because Mel, I don't really understand Mel very well, because Mel, in their interaction, was very reserved for the most part and very kind of keeping her cards to her chest. And I don't know if she was just shy, because then off camera she was very much like, oh, I really like this guy, you know, he could change my life, all these things. And they made out, at least for her, pretty passionately with him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether if that is just because she really likes him or because she wants to stay on the show. I really want to believe it's because she really likes him, because she definitely seemed to. I would honestly say she kissed him more passionately than anyone on this episode. Not that that's a big deal.
Yeah. Speaking of Brandon, the next thing that happened was Savannah got a date card, and Savannah's the yoga instructor we talked about last week. But she chose Brandon. So Brandon had Julia, who likes him. He has Mel that likes him. And now we got Savannah, who likes him. What did you guys think about their date to the old folks jazz club?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was a good enough date. I mean, Savannah, I feel like, kind of came on strong. Maybe Brandon's into that. And they ended up singing a song together. And I think Brandon wasn't a bad singer that I remember. I think he, like, whenever he sang, I think his face, like, I don't know if you're familiar with John Mayer, which everybody should be after the first episode, because he was referenced a bunch of times for no reason at all. But, like, he's got the same emotion in his face when he sings like John Mayer. But he had a really good American folk pop vibe to him, which is the genre he sings. But they did a good job, and it was a good
we
date.
have the list of people's genre in front of us. Don't act, Nathan. Don't make it seem like you know stuff.
It's like I'm getting targeted in this podcast.
Nathan,
Chase.
do we have to take you out again?
No.
We have a guest. What did you think about the date, Tim?
I agree with Nathan a lot that they are definitely into each other, but it seems like Savannah was really coming on to him, and I definitely felt like he was receptive to that, and I felt like it was very obvious, definitely comparing his interaction with Savannah and then Mel, that he was going to pick Savannah. And that can be for whatever reason. And it honestly is probably just because Savannah and him clearly have a little bit more chemistry. And that he actually went on there. I know Mel was very damaged by that. And so that definitely did not tide well for her going to the rose ceremony.
Yeah. So it's honestly, for a Bachelor in Paradise, a Bachelorette episode, this had 3 dates. And I only remember like 2. So I think these dates are pretty forgettable with this season and with this, I guess, genre of TV show. What do you guys feel about that statement?
I think the show is trying to eat up time this week, so I think they had to do the dates. Like, this wasn't a very exciting episode by any means. There's 3 dates and they introduced 3 new characters. I mean, you would think there would be a lot happening, but like it was still pretty mellow the whole episode. Like, Rudy was contributing to drama, and so did Natasha whenever she came in. But other than that, there was just regular dates, and the people that went on dates pretty much chose each other. So that was all that happened.
Yeah, the next part of the episode was the rose ceremony. Starting off, it looked like Trevor and Jamie were completely together, so there was really no question on who'd he choose. Next, we had, I believe we had Brandon messing around with like 4 girls, especially Mel. This is the part where Mel kissed them really passionately, and Mel was like head over heels. I want to say she brought the word love, but I can't be sure. What'd you guys think of the rose?
The one thing that really caught my attention with Mel, and honestly was probably the final nail in the coffin, was she said, her hair, was because she was saying, if he gives me the rose, it'll just change my life.
Yeah.
So obviously she's coming on really strong, and I mean, Brandon definitely seems to be the most desired guy at the house right now.
That was not the case. Yeah, that was not the case last week. It was Ryan and maybe Trevor.
Yeah, Ryan and Trevor for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Nathan? What do you think of the? It's not called a rose ceremony. It's like the cocktail party.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the pre-rose ceremony cocktail party?
It was a lot of the girls just putting themselves out there to stay on the show another week, I think. And yeah, I think Brandon, he really hit the golden ticket with this one, because he pretty much got to make out with half the girls, and he only had to pick one and cut his losses, and half the ones he made out with are still on the show. So I mean, I feel like this next week he's still going to get to make out with multiple girls, so we'll see how it goes and see what happens.
Yeah, and so it doesn't seem like Ryan and Jamie's going to happen again. Tim, you didn't know this, but in the beginning it seemed like Ryan and Jamie were like the it couple. Trevor showed up, kind of pulled Jamie from Ryan. Ryan was kind of a free agent this episode, and with Natasha coming in, she definitely saw him as a target, so they made out pretty quickly, and obviously he chose her at the end of this episode. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see Natasha put herself out there like she doesn't really know anybody. And I mean, she was really hypocritical to point fingers at Trevor for cheating and everything and breaking a poor girl's heart. But I mean, she was pretty easy to warm up with people and pretty much make out with everybody. But Ryan did really well this week. I think he made out with 2 or 3 girls, and they were debatably the most attractive ones on the show. So I mean,
Ryan,
right? Didn't Ryan make out with Mariana too?
No.
Sure?
No, I did not hear Mariana make out with one person.
I'm pretty sure.
You're thinking of
She only-
Rudy, I think.
Yeah, you're thinking of Rudy, dude.
Rudy made out with everybody, so
All
it's
right.
always the
It's
same
on the
thing.
record. Nathan thinks Rudy is one of the most attractive girls on the show.
I never said that. I think it states clearly I thought Mariana, which she's not with us anymore.
Yeah,
Sadly.
unfortunately. Rest in peace.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Rudy continued to try to find someone. Yeah. I think she ended up finding someone in Matt, the bearded guy. So
I'm going to call it for next week that Rudy got her way with Matt. She made out with him. He picked her. And then next week, whenever it rolls around that the girls get the roses, I think Matt's going to continue to be consistent with her in this next episode, but then she's going to choose somebody else other than him. She pretty much just used Matt to stay in it for this week. So that's my bold prediction, which isn't really bold because if anybody that's heard Rudy talk knows that she's about that life.
Yeah, so the first rose that was handed out was Chris's rose. It's a Brie. That was pretty obvious. I don't think anyone would have said anything different. The next rose was Trevor. He gave it to Jamie. I don't think there was any debate at this point in the episode whether or not she would accept it. She seemed...
Yeah. Plus, if any girl's going to get presented with a rose, they're not going to decline it. They're just they're here to be on the show at this point.
Yeah, the next person was Matt, and as we talked about, he gave it to Rudy. She was absolutely like head over heels in love with the fact that she got the rose. They were making out in the hallway. That was pretty unprofessional even for Bachelor standards. How'd you guys feel about that?
I definitely feel like Rudy and Julia could be the villains of this season.
Really?
Yes. Definitely Julia. Julia definitely
I could see
going
Rudy.
to be.
Yeah, I think definitely Rudy, in my opinion. Like, Rudy's going to be on the show for a couple more weeks. Just she's the drama in the show. Like, any Bachelor show has drama, and that's what Rudy's bringing to it. So they're not going to get rid of that because what else do they have? Like, Chris was going pretty steady with his chick. Jamie and Trevor already got through it, which was surprising for Jamie to get through something that dramatic whenever she's been cheated on every aspect of her life. But it's going to be Rudy that's going to be adding the drama until she gets voted out.
The reason why I say Julia is because when she was actually the one to get the very
Julia?
last rose, I believe.
Oh, really?
And the reason why is because everyone was like, Mel, Mel, Mel. And when Julia went out, I was like, I got a rose.
Okay, so
everyone was like disappointed.
So
and
you're
so
saying-
I interpret that as much was like, Julia's not popular. And I don't know for whatever the reason that is, but at least Julia seems to have some standards, whereas Rudy wants to stay on the show. So I definitely could see whoever leaves first being the bigger villain for that part of the portion, and then whoever is left of Rudy or Julia will be the villain. Obviously, we saw sneak peeks of the next episode where Julia is fighting with Savannah, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be very interesting to watch. I'm very interested to see if Rudy is going to rise to be a villain or if they're saving it for Julia.
Yeah, I'm also interested in this next episode. I think that dynamic will completely do a 180 where Rudy was like, I'll do anyone to get a rose, and next week she's going to be like, what are you guys going to bring to me? I got the rose this time. I just feel like she has that personality.
Yeah, the next episode I think it's going to be a fight over Brandon because he gave his rose to Savannah, and that's who Julia wanted the rose from. She wanted Brandon to get the rose to her, but he didn't, so that left her stranded. Then it came down to Sheridan, which was the last rose. I know we're skipping ahead a little bit, but...
Yeah, just real quickly, the next rose was Ryan. He gave it to Natasha, who we talked about.
Yeah, he didn't really get screen time. It was...
Yeah, not a lot of passion
Yeah.
between them.
So
The next one was probably the hottest rose of the night, and it was Brandon's. Honestly, all three of us had a different idea of who we would give it to. I was personally hoping Mariana. I knew that wasn't the case. I was hoping for Mariana to get anything. But it could have been Mel, Savannah, or Julia. I believe...
I called it whenever I said Savannah. I don't want to...
I yelled...
on anything,
Yeah.
but...
I yelled out Mel just because they were giving... It's really funny. You can almost tell who's going to stay around because they give him a lot of interviews, and Mel was getting a lot of interviews this episode. Who did you think he would choose, Tim?
Yeah, I thought Savannah was definitely the best bet. They seemed to have the most chemistry. And Mel, usually, I think you're right, when they get interviewed a lot towards the end and they're really close to crying, that never bodes well for their future, whether they end up getting the rose or not. Those people who are always worried if they're going to stay usually have good reason to be worried.
Yeah.
I definitely, to move on that point, I thought Gabe as the wild card of the night was very interesting.
Tim has not seen the first episode. Do you even know what Gabe sounds like? 'Cause
Absolutely not.
Gabe had no screen time.
Yeah, Gabe's flew under the radar pretty much the whole show, but I was looking at the names because we had the contestants. He chose Rudy, which looks like they're both from Texas, so I don't know if that has any correlation. She could have chose Mariana, who's from Texas as well, but that's about all I could get from his pick because he didn't get any screen time, Rudy didn't get any screen time, Mariana didn't get any screen time.
Screen.
I said what I said, Chase. We're not doing this again.
No one
Continue the podcast.
No one
please.
was screaming this episode except for Rudy. The final rose of the night was, of course, Sheridan's. Sheridan's. It's funny because Julia kind of like did the date with Sheridan and then just left him the rest of the episode to wonder, did she like the date or not? And then Julia, when she got rejected by Brandon, was like, oh my goodness, I hope Sheridan takes me back. Having not talked to him at all. I thought that was absolutely insane for her.
Yeah,
What'd you guys think?
I feel really bad for Sheridan because he was pretty consistent to Julia the whole episode, and that's who he ended up choosing. Like, I think Cheyenne was talking to him at the end of it, but that was her little bit of screen time for the week. I don't think she was an important role this week. I think they pretty much focused in on everybody, but as everybody that went on the dates this week, they ended up matching with each other. Like, that's who they chose, and everybody wants Brandon, so that's who Julia wanted the rose from. So I think Sheridan's in a really bad place, and it's going to lead to drama between Savannah and Julia fighting over Brandon. So I don't know if we've seen the last of Sheridan, but I'm thinking that he might not be on next week. That's one of my other predictions.
Honestly, I'm most interested to see who gets to give out their rose first. If it's between Savannah and Julia. If Julia gets to give out her rose first, she might not give it to Sheridan.
Yeah.
Meaning
And if Savannah gets it first, she's going to give it to Brandon. So then who does that leave Julia with? But
yeah.
I'd
Probably one of the new guys, honestly.
Yeah, like she's been really quick to not do anything with Sheridan, even though he's given her all the time of day. So I don't know what her deal really is. But Sheridan, I mean, I'm not a fan of Sheridan, but like he's not been a bad character. He's been really consistent. I mean, he sings pretty well.
And
talented.
I think he's had a thing for Julie ever since they started.
Yeah, he's been really consistent. I mean, he's been a good character. I think he needs to pick a new girl.
And Tim, can you tell us the 3 girls that went home this week?
Mel, Mariana, is it Cheyenne?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I called Cheyenne leaving in the previous podcast, but I did call Cheyenne leaving.
I felt sorry for Cheyenne because she didn't talk a lot, but she was very nice.
Well, you also didn't hear her sing. She's a great singer.
Yeah.
I guess we really know that Listen to Your Heart really doesn't care about singing very much.
Yeah. So that leaves no black women on the show, which I find pretty messed up.
You're bringing that up again, Chase?
No, I'm
surprised. I thought you were going to take a new direction.
No, I think this is messed up. There's 2 black guys, no white women.
Yeah.
We need some representation. I think we're missing a whole type of people on the show.
Yeah, Rudy is... Well, they said Natasha said she was Colombian and Italian or something like that. Mm-hmm. She said she sings in 2 different languages, so I don't know exactly what her ethnicity is, but...
We lost Mel, which had the pink hair ethnicity.
Yeah, but
that was pretty sad.
Was she Asian?
I'm not going to assume.
Yeah, she was a really pretty girl. I don't know what her ethnicity was either, but that doesn't matter. Just small observations in the course of being fans of The Bachelor and seeing how they decide to run their show. But
yeah, so real quick before we wrap it up, Tim, you don't know this, but we actually went through all the guys and decided on who we could or could not beat up. We're just going to run down the list. Could you beat up Brandon, Tim?
Definitely not.
Okay, Tim could not beat up Brandon. Could you beat up Chris?
I think everybody could beat up Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm changing my vote, by the way. I don't know what I said last week, but I saw his arms this week, and I would beat him up.
Okay. Nathan wants to fight Chris. It's not a matter of can he beat
Chris,
him up.
if you're out there, I am too.
Okay. Tim, could you beat up Danny, the dude who said absolutely nothing this episode?
I feel like I'd stand a good chance.
Okay. You did not see Gabe. I will not give you a hint on Gabe, but do you think you could beat up Gabe? There is a correct answer.
Yeah, I would go.
That's not.
That is the incorrect answer. Gabe was doing a bunch of CrossFit the first episode.
Yeah,
I'm still scared of
He's
Gabe.
pretty jacked.
I'm slow, but I pack a punch.
Okay.
Jack's not here anymore.
I could beat him.
Next, we got Matt. Tim, do you think you could beat up Matt?
Maybe if I was pulling his hair because of that really long mullet he has.
Well, speaking of hair, could you beat up Ryan?
Yeah, I think everybody could beat up Ryan.
I think most of the girls on the show could beat up Ryan. Could you beat up Sheridan?
I'm pretty sure he's Jesus, so no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty sure.
I feel like you could. That's where the hair pulling comes in. You could definitely pull some hair, slash a tire on his precious car.
Crucify him.
Okay.
That took a turn.
Finally, could you beat up Trevor? I'm sure most people want Trevor beat up. Could you, in fact, be that person?
I think it would be close.
Okay.
I spent some time in the ring, 3 years actually.
Oh.
Little league. So I definitely think I'd stand a chance. But honestly, I think Trevor could probably take me if he trained hard enough.
Yeah, just don't look into Tim's domestic violence and abuse charges. But that's besides the
All
point.
right. Nathan wants to bring up another touchy subject this week.
I feel very attacked.
HR will talk to him.
Well, so did your first wife.
All right. Finally, to wrap it up, do you guys have any predictions? This can be couples. This can be the dudes going home next week, short term or long term. What are your final predictions for this episode?
Final prediction for this episode?
Yes. Based off this episode.
Oh, based off... Okay.
Who do you think's going to stick together? Who do you think's going home next week, guy-wise? That's the 2 things. A long-term thing, who do you think's going to stick together? A short-term thing, which guy's going to go home next week?
I think possibly Sheridan is iffy. Ryan is iffy because
Really?
he was with Natasha. We don't know anything about Natasha. That's why I say iffy. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to continue to do that or if she's going to go with a new guy next week because she's new herself. So that's why I say those two are iffy. I think somebody's going to pick up Matt just because, I don't know but I think somebody's going to pick him up for whatever reason, even though I don't think he's the best one out there. I think Gabe's definitely going to stay around for no reason at all. He didn't really do anything, which I wish they'd give him a bigger part. Danny is... I don't think he's that great. He didn't really get a lot of screen time.
Who did
but
he pick this week?
He picked Becca, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about
Yeah,
Becca.
he picked Becca, which I think if they keep on going strong, I think they're just going to pick each other. She was a minor character as well.
Well, I think she also is a contender for
Yeah.
Dylan alongside Rudy.
Yeah,
But-
and
Yeah,
Brandon.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Brandon, I think, is definitely going to stay around. There's like all the chicks on the show want him. Chris, I think, I think Bria, they seem to be going pretty strong, so I think they're going to pick each other. So that's what I think. So my final one was Sheridan, Ryan, and then Matt and Danny. I know that's like half the guys, but like it's
So
going to be one of those four.
You think 4 out of the 3 guys that are getting sent
I'm
home?
saying one of those 4 are going to be the ones that goes home.
Okay, if I had to choose one, I personally would choose Danny. Tim, who would you choose?
I would pick Sheridan. I think
Really?
that's a very good point. Because Sheridan picked Julia, but we're really gonna see some of Julia's character. Is she gonna pick Sheridan, or is she gonna try to go after a new guy? Obviously, Brandon or other guys that are coming on this
that's
week.
true.
So obviously, a lot could happen this week. The new girls, even though they were both attractive and outgoing, and all the other girls were kind of jealous of at the moment. Maybe it was just what's her name? Rudy that was just jealous of them. But honestly, I'm really hoping that Gabe and Ruby will be something. I think that is very random.
Gabe?
Yeah, I love the randomness of that.
Okay.
Maybe it'll start something. But definitely I want to know how, she's one of the first newcomers on the show. So I definitely want to see how that will work out. I definitely think that'll be interested. Will she pick Gabe anyway, just because, he did that to her? Will they have any kind of relationship?
With Gabe?
Yeah. Because Gabe
Oh,
picked
Ruby.
Ruby.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
you said
no,
Rudy.
I said
Okay, I got
Ruby.
you.
So I definitely think that'll be interesting. There's a lot that's happened this episode. It is interesting that the two new girls really didn't have any kind of time at all. They were just kind of thrown in there random to buy extra 45 seconds of TV time.
Yeah, do you guys, finally, what couple do you think is the strongest based off this episode?
Chris and Bria for sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I think Chris and Bria...
Bree, I think it's just Bree.
Bree, sorry. Chris and Bree are really good. I want to say Jamie and Trevor could be something. Trevor seems really low key and wants to try, but I'm not sure if that will end up being something. I think that relationship will 100% depend on Jamie.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely think Chris and Bree is a very good guess. I honestly could see them being a couple that has no drama the entire time, but are more as I want to say mentors to the rest of the group.
The only thing I don't think they're compatible on is vocal ability. I think Chris is far superior. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for joining us, Tim. I think all 3 of us can go put on clothes finally. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and mail us some cool stuff to our P.O. box. Thank you. Bye.